Hello there, and thank you for joining me on this special interview segment. My name is Eddy Nyadwa, and on today's episode of the program, I'll be speaking to a gentleman who is an established scientist who has experience working at the CDC and currently working at Roche Diagnostic, which is a which manufactures equipment and reagents for research and medical diagnostic applications. He is none other than Mr. Samuel Omolo Oliech. Mr. Oliech,
Yes,
thank you for getting time to speak to us,
great pleasure.
and welcome to Lolwe Nairobi office.
Asante sana.
First things first,
Yes.
we are grappling with the coronavirus pandemic. How are you coping?
So far this year has been tough on everyone, but for us in the diagnostic field, it's quite a busy time. Reaching out to people and reaching out to the patients also. So it's been quite a busy year, but also a blessing because we are seeing the country opening up to business in the diagnostic world. And this is not just to make money, but also to support patients.
Okay.
Yes.
To the situation in the country,
Yeah.
as of yesterday, Monday, the number of cases increased by 245, and now we are at an all-time high of 30,000, of 30,000
30,000.
and 365, including 482 deaths.
Yes.
As a scientist, how are we managing this pandemic as a country?
So thanks for that question. When you see the numbers going up, which means we are testing, and we have to applaud the government for taking the lead in upscaling testing, because if you don't test, you really don't get the pattern in the country, and you do not even get the transmission patterns across the different points where the outbreak started. So increase in numbers means we are testing, and the government is testing actively using all platforms. But what we would encourage currently is the government should decentralize testing to counties and create centers of excellence. Not necessarily set up big equipment and more expensive equipment, but look for what we call high throughput equipment that has good turnaround time. It can be as small as a phone, but the throughput is high. Throughput means it can test, let's say, a number of samples per hour. So if you look at an 8-hour shift, you could be doing more than a big equipment using small and highly efficient technology. Yes.
And again, in the midst of dealing with the corona pandemic,
Yes.
there were some disturbing reports about irregularities of procurement at KEMSA,
Yes.
whereby you find that companies that were formed less than 2 months were given contracts worth 3 billion to supply PPEs.
Yeah.
Already the CEO of KEMSA has been a casualty together with the 2 other directors.
Yeah.
When you hear this story, what kind of taste does it leave in your mouth?
For sure, it's a bitter taste, and that does not only have impact today, but into the future of the Republic. It's shameful. The government is trying its best, but we can't say that it's something we really want to hear during these hard times when people cannot even secure bed slots, spaces in hospitals. They are pretty much full in Nairobi. You can't secure bed space, and people are busy looting. So if the allegations are true, and we've seen heads rolling, Kenyans, we quickly forget things, and this could just be another scarecrow, if I may use the right term. So it's up to the government to decide, and the people in leadership currently, to look straight when they're leaving home, especially our Minister for Health. He's been doing a fantastic job, but he has to look at his family in the face in the morning and tell them the truth the country wants to leave behind. Even the president, we support what they've been doing, but it's shameful what we saw. It's an outright loot. Yes.
Okay. Now, lastly, on the issue of corona.
Yes.
Reports are Russia already has developed a vaccine, and they announced that the testing will be fast, and they announced that their doctors will be the first people to benefit from the vaccine.
Yes.
You're a scientist. What more do you know about this vaccine?
Thanks for the good question. This has been a big debate. So So for pandemics, this is not the first pandemic. If I'm to give you a brief history, we had the first big pandemic in 1918, recorded the worst, where millions of people died, almost 50 million.
Yeah.
So this is still on a lower scale, but growing gradually. So this is not the first one we are seeing. We saw another one in the year 2002, the SARS virus outbreak. Then 2012, we had the MERS virus from Middle East. And now we have coronavirus in 2019-2020. So if you look at this disease particularly, vaccines form integral part of stopping a pandemic. But developing a vaccine takes years. It could even be 5 or 10 years with or without success, because there's no guarantee. And the Russian vaccine could be true could give a true picture of what's happening in Russia, but it's in their cohort, in their country. Yeah. They've not really come out to share their data
with the world.
With the world. It's highly enclosed. They're not sharing with anyone. And scientific facts are that it has to be testable here, in the US, in South Africa and Kenya, and you give the same results. What I can say about if their technology is working, they just did some few hundreds of samples. But for a real study where you're testing a vaccine, you have to do thousands and thousands within your cohort. Then you look at geographical distribution. Yeah, it has to put a geographic distribution. You have to get costs from Europe, Asia, South Africa, Africa, and then Americans and the South American. Because the way we react to a vaccine as an African is totally different from a European. Yeah. So they need to engage, see their data. If they did it in all the continents, it has to take some time, and it has to follow clear scientific protocol, which we've not seen so far.
And jumping into the vaccine from Russia,
yes.
Kenya announced through the CAS for health, that is Dr. Mercy Mwangangi,
yes,
that Kenya will not mind plugging into the vaccine that Russia has developed.
Yeah.
And we know previously Kenya has been really collaborating with America, Britain,
yes,
most likely the European nations in terms of health matters.
Yes.
Do you think this will be the right direction?
It is the right direction. There's no formula when it comes to a pandemic, because the whole world is in a panic mode. Everyone is fighting their own battles. And I can say we are only 6 to 7 months into the pandemic. We are like building a plane and flying it at the same time. That's the right term. So what Kenya is doing is, if we can learn from anywhere to stop the pandemic, then we look at collaborations anywhere. At this point, we'll not look at where it came from, because scientific discoveries come from any part of the world. We've seen great scientists, like the people who looked at the structure of DNA. Some came from England, some from the US. Okazaki came from Japan. So it's a universal responsibility. So if we are partnering with Russia, at this point, it's in good faith to stop the spread of the virus. Yes.
Okay. Now, Samuel, I want us to dive now into the core, or rather the gist of the interview.
Yes.
I want us to look at your political ambitions.
Yes.
I know currently we are eyeing the Muhoroni constituency seats.
Yes.
If I may ask, why?
Thank you very much for that question. The most important thing for us as young people of the Republic is that we don't sit back in decision-making process. Everything you see in this world involves politics. From the church, people have to vote to have bishops. If you look at learning institutions, people have to vote. If we look at all the way to the presidents, all over the world, people vote. So we are urging young people to come on board and take up responsibility, and not to watch from the fence and clap. So politics and career is very important, especially when we are looking back into what's happening. You've just talked about deep corruption that has happened, massive loot that has happened in the country. What can you do as someone with, like me, with global experience, and have seen a few things in different countries? What can I bring back home? If we look back home in the village, we are seeing an industrial zone like Muhoroni that had wealth. It's the Canaan our Prime Minister is normally talking about. It was a wonderful European settlement.
It's well endowed.
Yes, well endowed with the wealth and food and everything. But things turned around somewhere in between. Everything collapsed. So we are not coming into leadership to fight off the regime that's there, but also to provide what our experience and bring whatever we've learned elsewhere for our people to benefit.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we very well know that political parties are the vehicles to power.
Yes.
Somewhere. Are you a member of any political party as of today?
Yes, I'm a life member of ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement, and we support the party at all levels. We participate in the party, and we love our party.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, not so long ago, the ODM party announced a new national election board that will be chaired by Catherine Muma.
Yes.
And we all know the history of primaries in this country.
Yes.
Most of them are normally disrupted, it's normally chaotic scenes. But this time around, the party is promising a free and fair election.
Yeah.
Given the preparation that the party, now your party, is making towards the primaries,
Yes.
does the preparation inspire confidence?
It's a good move by the party leader to bring on board someone like Mumu, who actually worked closely in the audit of what went wrong in the previous events. So we have faith in the decision and the board, but as to whether they will deliver the best, your guess is as good as mine, because politics has a lot of interest.
Politics is also formless.
Yeah,
it takes form.
It's formless.
It goes.
In our scientific world, we call it like developing a vaccine. There are global interests, behind patents, and for deliveries. What I'm saying, they have to deliver good by election, or else we'll see trends we've been seeing, even in Luo Nyanza and other parts of Nyanza. We've seen ODM losing some critical seats. So it would be important for this team, which everyone now have confidence in and was sworn in, to give us the best election. And this starts with party primaries. Yeah, you don't renew the same list year in, year out, people just appearing with the list and saying, we are the bona fide members of the party. Everyone would love to be a bona fide member of the party. The only difference between someone who was there previously is that it could be age difference. Yeah. But this is our time. Yes.
Now, your mantra as you seek the Muhoroni seat has been, you will restore the lost glory of Muhoroni, which was once a rich constituency.
Yes.
Just give us a highlight of some of the projects that you want to bring on board to restore this lost glory.
Thanks for this wonderful question. Muhoroni, first of all, is a rich place. It just needs a small job to revive Muhoroni. If we look back in history, a country like Singapore, they were extremely poor, and we had slums, just like what we're seeing in Kibra and other places. But it took one person, Lee Kuan Yew, to give that much-needed job to restore the integrity of Singapore. And this pushed Singapore from just a small poor country and leapfrogged it to the world of riches. Why are we talking about that? Muhoroni does not need a lot of money pumped in fast. You can pump in billions into Muhoroni, but you still get no results as it is right now. So what we need fast forward is what we call system approach to social engineering.
system approach
to social engineering. By system, I mean you have to holistically do social engineering, change the brain. People right now desperate. Yeah, they feel nothing is going on. They've lost their livelihood, which was revolving around sugarcane, and which is pretty much collapsed or surviving. So when you socially engineer people in their minds and tell them you have to believe again in your system, you have to believe again in your community, and they embrace their community, they will quickly see the opportunities which they've not been seeing. And when you socially engineer your community, not even by first of all reviving the factories, by even talking about the environment, yeah, starting with the cash crops, growing the cash crop that they do, giving them seeds, yeah. Once you socially engineer them and bring back their livelihood, they will start thinking of bigger projects. The other thing we would love to see in Muhoroni, to give it a jab, is talk about making Muhoroni attractive.
How will you manage this?
Look at country like Rwanda, for example. Rwanda has no minerals, has no oil, no gas, nothing.
And it's also pretty small.
Pretty small.
To land
We just say land of 1,000 hills. Yeah. But they've positioned themselves. That's why we are talking about social engineering as the cleanest city in Africa, the tech hub in Africa. And you've seen people flocking into Rwanda to go and benchmark there and see, and they bring in revenue because Rwanda is not big. I think the economy of Nairobi is almost 3 times the economy of Rwanda. Yeah. Look at Dubai. In the last 20 years, Dubai had nothing. It was just a desert. Yeah. But they just crafted, they coined, that's the right word, the term, we want to be number one in everything. We want to have the first 7-star in the sea. We want to have the biggest mall in the world. We want to have the tallest building on earth, Burj Khalifa. So people have started streaming to Dubai to go and see all this. And that has turned around Dubai. So what I want to do is to make Muhoroni more attractive. Yeah. If it's education, we are now pumping money to send our kids to national schools out of the constituency. You're sending our kids to the best national schools in Nairobi, Mangu, Garbatula. But why does a child leave Muhoroni to go to Garbatula? Infrastructure. Yeah. If we revive our infrastructure locally and have at least 2 national schools within Muhoroni, then we're going to make Muhoroni more attractive. Someone will come from Kigali to come and study in a national school in Muhoroni. Someone will come from Mombasa to come to a national school in. What's the trickle-down effect? More revenues to Muhoroni. If we bring in a college, right now we don't have technical colleges within Muhoroni. This is going to attract more people all the way to Mama Mboga down there. So when you make your community more attractive, people come in, you attract business, and that is our top priority, to make Muhoroni attractive.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you are a scientist, but curiously you've not mentioned the plans you have in terms of improving healthcare.
Yes.
If you mind, what plans do you have to improve healthcare in Muhoroni?
Your health is your wealth. That's the first thing. Once you have food on the table, now you think of the next step, which is healthcare. So if you look at what we have currently in the whole republic, we really don't want to talk about Muhoroni alone, because so far I've worked across Africa, so we'll talk broadly about Africa. Healthcare is a critical component of our life. In the past, historically, when we battled some diseases like smallpox and polio and we had a big win, we quote-unquote attenuated our health care system. By attenuation means we literally slowed them down and say, yeah, bingo, we've won, so we don't need them. But currently, we are now what we call a victim of our own success, because we killed what was ours and what we had an opportunity to improve. So in terms of healthcare, if you look at a budget of a member of parliament, it's too small. It's around 120 million, yeah, that they are given. But a unique leader must think of how to get extra money to do your own projects, flagship projects.
Well, that's resource mobilization.
Resource mobilization. And that's where my strength comes in. Doing grants. I've been doing grants across Africa in my previous jobs. And when you have your own kitty, yeah, as a scientist doing my own grants and having extra money for yourself, you really need to give the CDF to all the wards to do whatever projects they want. But I will have my own kitty, yeah, to do my own projects, especially health. Have at least a nicely done hospital, a cancer center for the community, and an innovation hub for young people who come from college. What they need are not jobs, because once you are from your first degree or college, you are not trained. You are trainable. Yeah. So these are some of the things that we're having in the pipeline, where people will now start doing medical tourism to come to our area, making it more attractive.
Okay. Now, as you come to a close of the interview,
yes,
Muhoroni constituency borders other borders Kericho and also Nandi counties.
Yes.
And along the borders there have been sometimes we've witnessed chaotic scenes whereby communities fighting over the borders. As an aspiring leader,
yes,
what will you do to bring to an end this constant fighting over the border, so that you can encourage integration amongst the communities living along this borderline?
Thank you very much for that question. That has been a major problem across our border, and not all the borders, some parts of the borders. It's always good, when people Google Muhoroni, they see the whole of Muhoroni on fire, and that's not the case. We have lived peacefully with our brothers from Kericho side of the county, and also Nandi Hills. And even myself, we have a home in Fortena, yeah, where my grandfather was buried, and I speak both languages, Kalenjin and Luo. We are a highly integrated community. So, and what I've been doing over the last 3 years is having tournaments, football tournaments. I think the biggest in the constituency. So through sports, yes, through sports, we've done integration. We have teams coming from Nandi Hills, the Nandi part of the border. We have teams coming from Kericho side, and it's been fantastic. Most of them have been doing up to going to the semi-finals, and this has brought integration. This coming year, we are doing Muhoroni annual festival, and we're going to have a half marathon, yeah. And we know our community across the border; they're good in marathon.
They're good at that.
Yes, and we're going to have people mingling together and exchanging and social network. But above all, I want to tell our communities across the border, yeah, to stop physical fights, but start a different fight, yeah. I want you to fight economically, yeah. Can you outwit your neighbor in financial trade, yeah? You're more advantaged against your neighbor when you have trade advantage against them. They have milk, they have maize, and we also have our sugarcane and all with other resources and milk. Let's trade across the border. That's the only fight we want to see in Muhoroni, cross-border trade.
You've been doing a good job. In the community, I hear people saying that we are a good philanthropist.
Yes.
We're supporting youths doing chicken rearing. You also support the initiative to repair the Muhoroni police station.
Yes.
If you get elected, will the philanthropy also end?
Never, because I'm one person who believe in getting my own grants, yeah, to do things. It's out of charity, and it's not about big money. When you want to do something, I can just mention to you a few. It's not only the ones you've mentioned. The first project I started with was to donate laboratory equipment to schools within Muhoroni, high schools. because I saw that in California. Young students getting engaged in the biotech industry in Silicon Valley. So I wanted to replicate the same in Muhoroni. I have donated equipment across the constituency. And even to the next constituency in Nyando, I've given laboratory equipment. Now we are talking about 30 high schools across the whole country that we've done donation through our partners in the US. I've also trained last year. The main highlight was training 30 coaches, world coaches in Muhoroni, which was done by none other than the national team coach, Kimanzi. And also came on board was Muso Tieno and Sepe Mulama. So bringing what people in the village see as a preserve of Nairobians, you bring to the village. Yeah. We've been donating to hospitals and also to churches and other places. But it's not about donation only. Social engineering first. Our people must believe in themselves and see what they really have. So if elected in the future in Muhoroni, the philanthropy will not stop, because we only need the letterhead and the rubber stamp to get more money. There's a lot of money out here.
Yeah.
And
so we intend to mobilize it more.
To mobilize it more, I'm targeting 10 times in the first 2 years of what we are having as an allocation from the government to transform Muhoroni. Muhoroni needs transformation.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Now, that has been Samuel Oliech, a life member of the ODM party, a philanthropist, and career-wise is a scientist with global experience. Thanks for watching. My name is Eddy Nyadwa.